My name is Peter Pizor, and I've been a member of a lot of clubs. I've moved around extensively, so I've had a lot of experience with different clubs and in different countries. One of the things that has been fun for me in Toastmasters has been learning that every club is unique and different. And I've been in some clubs that have completely revised what they were doing and became something totally new. And I'm going to ask my co-host, Dan Arbuckle, if he would introduce himself and say something about the purpose of our gathering.
Yeah, as Peter said, I'm Dan Arbuckle. I'm this year's Club Growth Director for District 22, but more importantly, I'm a fellow Toastmaster and new club coach. So we're all in this together. I'm in two clubs, as I put in the chat. I've been in KU Med Toastmasters since it was chartered, and we've had our ups and downs and struggled with membership. So that's some kind of hands-on coach experience. And with some of the others of you, I'm a member of a Taste of Success, which is a wonderful club because I get to see people like Andre and Daryl and others. That's good variety to go from a corporate club to an open advanced club. Lots to learn. I encourage you to visit every club you get a chance to visit, especially now with Zoom. It's so easy to visit clubs not only in our district, but all across the world. I was invited to a meeting in Japan. I talked to people in the Bahamas and Canada. And it's great to see how other people do things and learn little nuggets you can bring back to your home club to make things a little better. And hopefully, over the course of the evening, we'll share stories and learn some new information to help us all be a little bit better mentors at the beginning of a club and coaches for those clubs that are struggling a bit. We currently have a bunch of clubs that qualify for a coach. We've been fortunate enough to have several coach assignments so far this year, but there's still about 41 clubs that qualify. Any club with 12 members or fewer can qualify for a club coach. There can be 2 coaches in a club. And hopefully we'll find some more folks that like to be coaches and share a lot of experience and information with each other tonight. And I did send an email out to everybody in the group in case some folks have dropped before we got going. So if you know of anybody that's asking for how to get in, it's the same information. We should be good to go now.
All right. Dan, what's the reason that we're doing this? What's going on? What's our mission?
Mission is to help each other. My goal, whether it's as a district leader or just as a Toastmaster, is to get us all to work together, to talk to each other, to share our experiences, make our clubs stronger, make our individual Toastmasters stronger. And being a club coach and being a club mentor is a vital part of that. A mentor helps a club establish and get off on a good footing, and a coach does many of those same things, just for the club that's a little bit more seasoned and maybe needs some help, a little bit of redirection, new ideas, a fresh take. But at the end, it's all about us as Toastmasters getting out of Toastmasters what we want and making good, strong clubs so we can achieve those goals.
Sounds like a plan. So one of the things that Dan did was he set up a coaching mentor experience. We're going to start with tonight as an orientation, a sort of a base camp. But what I've found by looking around is we have a huge amount of experience. Looks like the average person has been in 2 to 4 Toastmasters clubs, maybe a little bit more than that. And a lot of people have had a huge amount of experience. So if you've had a bad experience with mentoring, either in Toastmasters or somewhere else, put down in 2 or 3 words in the chat, what was the worst thing that you experienced? So give you a minute to put that down and take a minute to see what everybody else posts. Oh, Andre, it was all good for me. I turned lemons into lemonade. I have witnessed that personally because Andre and I were co-coaches. Barb Kelly says, worst, a coach who wanted to take over the club like they owned it. Oh man, how many of you have seen something like that? That does not work. Barb, in your experience, did that work for you? Where you saw it? Oh, Doris says, old dogs and sermons without evaluations or timing are the worst. Okay. The club I coached did not want to change to get better for a long time. Did they change at the end, Stephanie? Yes. So one of the things that happens is for change to happen, the club has to be willing to change, and that's absolutely essential. Let me go to screen sharing. Oh, wasn't a Toastmasters club, but the organization didn't, anything was wrong. Yeah, so these are things that we're going to face as we work with our clubs. I'm going to jump in here to a screen share and give me some feedback if my screen share is somewhat of a PowerPoint. And right here. So do you have a clear sense of what we're looking at? Dan, you can see?
Okay. Yep, I can see.
I love it. Okay. We started with an idea, and we just sat down and noodled on it, so you can see the handwritten notes, and the idea grew and grew, and now we're here. And we're going to call this mentor magic. And the magic is what is going to be produced as we work together on this. Our pathway is this. We're going to look at the challenge, and the challenge is pretty extreme. I have 5 clubs that are just not going to make it in District Division K. We're going to take a look at the public, at the club profile, and what are their fears, doubts, and pain, and then success stories, and then what are the benefits for the club members and for you? What are strategies that will work? And in the end of the evening, I want to share what we've developed as support for you, because we want everyone to succeed and feel totally supported. So let's start with number 1, our challenge. And our challenge is related to COVID. Who knew in February what was going to happen next? And we had to react, and this district has reacted about as quickly as any district could. The leadership was on top of it. We went instantly online, but we're still dealing with the pandemic. And although the pandemic is ongoing and I'm waiting for it to end, it hasn't. So the reality is whatever's going to happen in the future, that has not occurred yet. There was a change in employment patterns. So that's been a factor in what people do and how they work. Most of the change in employment patterns is going to result in changes what happens day to day. So we lost a couple of clubs because Farmers Insurance Company closed their offices and nobody can come in. So that club is now on hold indefinitely. Change in schooling. How many of you, like me, have somebody who's doing online school at home? And I was in a series of meetings this morning while he was taking flute practice, and it came through all the closed doors. Parenting. It's wonderful to have families stay together. My family's been together since March. Enough is enough. I'm ready for some lightning and changing for that. Getting together with others is very different. Shopping, I totally live by people who drop stuff off on my doorstep. Movies, I love movies. Now what I see is Amazon and Netflix. And Toastmasters has been affected too. So we're in the process of learning and what's going on. I want you to take a look at this report. This is as of today, and this is how we in District 22 are doing in terms of dues renewal. So to date, we've had payments 812. Our base is 3,500, which means that our total performance is negative 76.82%. Whoa. Now, Dan is the one who's seniorly in charge of what happens with club growth. And this is something that gets our full attention coming in. So that's why we're here. Are we in a hole? Yes. We're in a hole. Can we continue doing what we were doing? The answer is no. When you're in a hole, the best advice, Dan says, is to quit digging, right?
Definitely, that would be good advice.
And digging is what we've been doing. A lot of clubs just want to recreate the past. For better or for worse, the past is past, and we have to deal with today and where we're going to be in tomorrow. So one of the things to do is to deal with clubs and listen to their fears and doubts. And when clubs are in fear and doubt, a lot of things go on. So largest club I've been in had 75 members, and the smallest club I've been in had 4. And I'm sure all of you have had some experience with different sizes. Some clubs are younger and some are older. I was in a club in which the average age was sort of World War II veterans. And their interest in doing something new was just talking about the good old days. And I go, oh, that's a good song if you know Bruce Springsteen. They said, Bruce who? Some clubs are really mixed, and they have a mixture of measures of members. Some clubs are a corporate, and the corporate clubs have a different set of rules. If the corporation has stopped having people into the building, or if the corporation has decided to stop supporting Toastmasters, it makes a profound difference in what can be done. Mostly I've been in open clubs, and some are affinity clubs, special purpose and advanced clubs. Who here is in an advanced club and would like to open their mic and say which one and what's advanced about it?
I'll put in a plug for ATOS unless Andre or Stephanie want to.
Okay.
I attended a Taste of Success meeting and saw all the district leaders and thought that apparently it was a requirement that I join since I was going to become
Since you're district leader.
It's full of talent and wonderful people. I mean, not that our home clubs or corporate clubs or any other clubs aren't. All of our clubs have great and wonderful people. That's the beauty of Toastmasters. We tend to care about other people's achievement just as much or more than we do our own, which is a nice environment to be in. But to have all of those senior Toastmasters, all of that skill, and new and younger members for that matter, but to have those people to learn from is wonderful, and something that I can try to take back to my home club. When Peter talked about small clubs and being with a club with 4, I was in a club basically that was me for a little while. Then there were 2 of us, and then there were 3, and then there were 5, and we finally got back to 8. And corporate clubs really have taken a beating of late. I know Cerner is working with 2 of its clubs to work together until they're actually back in-house so that they can be in their own buildings and go on. But for a lot of the corporate clubs, it really is a challenging time. But with all of us working together, hopefully we can make it through these challenges and come out on the other side fairly normal.
Good. So let's take a look. The statistics that I shared are grim, but knowledgeable heads say that's only half of the success. So we only have to get to half of that number. Thank you, Stephanie, because we do in 2 months, we do 6 months and then 6 months for that. But we are still not where we want to be. Let's see. Let's talk about doubts and fears. When you come into a consulting thing, and I was a consultant for many, many years, and I would come in to meet a new client, and I would spend a lot of time with the client and I would listen. And somebody would say, how come you're not speaking? It's because I don't know enough about you to speak yet. I don't know who you are and what's going on. But I would listen very much and say, what is it that disturbs you? What makes you nervous? What are things that are going wrong? And in times of change, people say, I don't have control. I hear that a lot in Toastmasters. I grew up in the printed booklet phase. Now they're in pathways. I don't understand it. It's different. Of course, life is totally different. When there's change, it also increases the amount of uncertainty. When uncertainty goes up, then fear rises. Suddenly, everything seems different. Surprise, surprise, surprise. A lot of people have had more surprises in the last 3 months than they needed in a whole year, maybe in a whole decade. When things change, one of the fear things is we're doing it differently. I could lose face. I knew how to work in the old environment, but maybe I'm going to be in trouble in the new circumstances. So concerns about competence. How many have heard comments in your club about, I'm nervous about the technology, right? So, but is the technology going to get changed? No. Are we going to find ourselves living increasingly in a virtualized environment? Not 100%, but jobs, work, school are going to use more. And now that people have learned they don't have to commute to work, they may in fact choose to do that. So we're going to see this going on. Change requires more work. Amy Zentz has brought about huge change, and she sent me an email today, and she said, club change, tell everybody that it's like going to the gym. You buy the gym membership and you don't get fit. What you have to do is you buy the gym membership and then you have to work out and work hard. And that's what makes the difference. And sometimes the threats are real, and we do have threats here. So on to number 3, some success stories. And we'll share a little bit on those. I want to introduce 4 clubs, and others may bring up some more as well. First one is going to be Sunset Kupakoi, which is down in the Caribbean. Completely to my surprise, they invited me to be a guest speaker next month at one of their meetings. And I was like, wow, can I get on an airplane? No. Can I zoom in? Yes. It'd be the closest I can get to being on the beach. A second club is Powerhouse Pros. Powerhouse Pros was a huge club in Las Vegas, mostly filled with professional speakers, and they decided to sharpen their focus. Articulators is right here in our district, and Toastmasters Unlimited is right here. Andrew Red's probably smiling already to see that on the success list. So let's talk about Sunset Kupakoi. I was in this club, and they were wonderful, and they tolerated me. I added diversity to their mix, and it was a lot of fun to be in that club. I was very proud of my membership. And very quickly, I got elected president. I said, wow, we're going to become President's Distinguished. I said, well, we did that last year in our first year, but we only got 9 out of 10 points. I said, no, we're going all the way. And you know what we did? We sat as a group and we created officers' meetings. They had never had those before. We sit down and we got together once a month and said, what are we doing? What are our goals? What's our plan? What's our next action? What's working? What's not working? How many do we need? Oh, we need some more education accomplishments. Let's get those done. Who's going to do it? Okay, you can do that. You can do that. Let's set up our meetings. And so this club is now celebrating its 5th anniversary. And I'm happy to come back as a former club president and celebrate with my former associates. One of the things that's amazing is there were no DTMs in that club. Now there are 4, so it's quite possible. By the way, to be in the Caribbean means that when you have a speech contest, it involves people in different countries. So you have to have a passport and fly in an airplane to another island and connect that way. Second club was one I was member of for many, many years, and this is Powerhouse Pros. Many of those people in there are professional speakers. Some of you may even recognize 1 or 2 of those individuals. Jesse Oakley was the convention chair when we had our meeting in Las Vegas for annual. Darren LaCroix is world champion of public speaking and a professional speaker and coach, and so on, and the others. It turns out that 3 members of that club have been on the final stage in the speaking. They decided we are too big with 70 members. They got thrown out of their luxurious meeting room on a top of a 10-story high-rise in downtown Las Vegas. So they found themselves out in not such a nice area closer to the airport. And they said, let's do something different, and looked around, and it turned out that there were 7 humorists, stand-up comics in the club. And they said, let's become a humor club. So they went from being an all general club to being a special club, and their idea was humor. And they began each meeting with humor, speeches about humor, how to do it. And at the end of the meeting, they had something wonderful. They had a little wrap-up where everybody would listen during the meeting and take notes. Who said what, who said this, who said that. And at the end, they would stand up and one at a time, stand up and find something humorous in the way something was phrased or rephrased. So one time I got up and I said, I'm evaluator, and when the meeting is over, I will make my report. And the person doing the humor said, no, when the meeting's over, you go home and make the report before. So just picking up on spontaneous humor was a great way to grow and learn. Now, let's take a look here. This is articulators, and this club got down to almost no members. Does anybody hear from articulators by chance?
Amy was on. I was going to ask her a few questions. I know her infectious personality is a wonderful boon to any club. I know they worked with other clubs to fill roles, to have good quality meetings. I asked her if she could do something for me one time, and it was, yeah, if you can join our next meeting and fill a role. I mean, really worked hard at working with her fellow Toastmasters to make good quality meetings and turn around and make a wonderful club.
Absolutely. So Amy, if you're here, unmute.
I don't think she's with us anymore.
I don't see either. Okay. No, she's not here. So she made a presentation. I'm sure some of you have a chance to listen to her presentation on what made a difference in that club. Dan, can you share some of the steps that she took?
Well, I know one, they worked with a coach that, again, is a big personality that does lots of things and makes things happen in Rick Chandler. They worked with, Andre, can you help me? I'm drawing a total blank on the name of the club they worked with, the morning club. They're on Metcalf.
I can. The first club that I belonged to, which was Early Birds, what's interesting is I belonged to 2 clubs that had membership issues. Early Birds was a club that had so many members, they had to put them on a waiting list. That was their issue. And I left that club and went to another club, but Early Birds partnered with articulators because they had too many speakers and too many people didn't have enough speaking slots. So they partnered with articulators, and articulators provided them with some of the slots, but Early Birds provided them with the members and the support. And so when potential members came to articulators, they would see these full meetings with all these great speakers. And so the partnership piece was very, very critical in their growth.
Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. And they shared and linked some services. Early Bird Toastmasters also helped some other clubs. And they said, we have an excess of talent. And they provided coaches to a startup and sent 3 members to join that startup and coach them on what to do. Okay, the next club that had a successful turnaround is right here, Toastmasters Unlimited. And oh, I see some familiar faces here. Andre Red. Toastmasters Unlimited got in serious trouble and then grew and then moved on to help others. Andre, can you click your microphone and share a little bit of that story?
You know, one of the most, thank you for the opportunity to share. One of the most powerful things is getting outside of your four walls and finding out what's going on in the walls of other clubs, especially the ones that are doing well. I have been with Early Birds, who's a thriving club, and I worked with them pretty actively for a couple of years. And I said, you know what, this is going to be my opportunity to chill out. And I just heard this still, quiet voice that, no, 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 no. This isn't your time to stay ye and chill. This is your time to go ye. Well, I had been an area director in the club that I went to, Toastmasters Unlimited. I really liked them, a very warm club. You know, I would say average age is probably 60, mid 60s earlier. And so Pathways was totally out of the question and some of these other things. But when I went with two things in mind. One was I chose to focus on the good things, but I also didn't want to go in, and I heard Stephanie mention earlier that it was kind of a long, drawn out process. But what I did was just kind of look to inventory, and I had a chance to introduce them to some things, just small things, one at a time. Like I introduced them to the name tags, and they really liked that. And so I built the trust, and I built the I would say the credibility with them that positioned them to listen to me and listen to ideas. And you know, we kept doing things and kept inviting people from the district to help us out. And that club had not been a distinguished club for 15 years. And that year we became President's Distinguished. So I'm saying to you, is it hard work? Absolutely. Is it a huge growth opportunity? Absolutely. But can it be done? Absolutely. You know, if you have that made up mind and realize that it takes a village, and you start reaching out to all of those resources that you've developed outside of even the club, it can happen. It can happen.
Thank you very much.
The more of us that work together, the less work it is on the individual. I mean, the more we become a team and actually spread that load, the more fun we can have and the more success we'll have.
Let me share one other thing. There's a couple of people that we recently recruited in our club that are just excellent members. They're assets to the club, but they were part of another club that was having issues, and ultimately they dissolved. And so, you know, that's really kind of some low-hanging fruit for your clubs. Not that we want them to shut down, but I mean, so I'm saying just keep your eyes open and be looking for those opportunities, because it's a lot of good ones out there.
Great, thank you. And then Stephanie, who says, I've been in a lot of your club photos. What's up with that? Well, Stephanie, Division 22 director, now immediately past director. Of course, you're famous and been at the top of everything that we're doing. But you shared something about Taste of Success, and I'm hoping that you'll turn on your microphone and say what happened with Taste of Success, which has been listed as an exciting and fun club.
2 years ago, when I came on halfway through the year as president, our club had gone from September 30th, over 20 members, to October 1, 10 members. Pathways did us in for a short time. We had to spend the rest of the year doing a complete rebuild of the club, and some people on this call are a result of that joined in that half of the year. On the very last day, we got enough members to get our distinguished status back. So we've been President's Distinguished every year except for that year, and we were not President's Distinguished, we were Select that year. So,
Congratulations. So it just takes work.
a lot of work. That was
lot
a
of work.
heavy duty year.
So to all of these coaches and mentors, the word of advice is roll up your sleeves. It's going to be fun, but it's a journey. So let's get into some specifics here. What do mentors do? They advise and they inspire. But you know what? They can't bring about the change. It's just not possible to do that. Somebody said the worst thing that happened was the coach came in and told us what to do, and the answer is that will never work. I've noticed that Toastmasters clubs have some similarities, but each club has its own culture, and that culture is developed over a long period of time. And if you come in and say to the club, this is the only way to go, they're going to go, no, and they'll put the brakes on. So what you've got to do is come in and learn that you are an advisor. And I want you to make a slight change to that. I want you to become a trusted advisor, somebody who's confident and competent. And as you bring those skills in, you can do that. You can make introductions to people, to programs, to experiences, and that'll help. Mentors give recommendation to the best resources. Readings, classes, experience, there's much going on, what's out here. And Dan and I have put together a list of great resources, and they're all online on Facebook in a special place that's reserved for all of us. It has only 2 members now, but each one of you is welcomed and invited. And tonight, go to Facebook and click, and I'll show you exactly how to do it. And this is going to become the District 22 Mentor Resource Forum, sharing and talking. And mentors give feedback for the mentee to consider. Okay. This is a matrix of skills. Always proceed when you come into a club with the end in mind, per Steve Covey. And there are 2 sets of skills, those that are related around to the mentor and those that are mentee specific. And so mentors, instructing, inspiring. We have some great inspiring people here. Shed just joined our group. I've heard Shed inspire me many times. I go, I don't ever want to have to speak after Shed. Another person is in that same category as Andrew Red. They're very inspiring. That's good. Inspiration is good, but inspiration is not perspiration. Inspiration says, get a membership in the gym, but the perspiration is go there on a regular basis and work out. Providing corrective feedback is incredibly delicate. Your mentor is here because you already have that experience. You know a lot and you have good judgment. We are counting on you to use that good judgment. Don't ever take a shortcut. Build trust, build relationship, build confidence, build competence, and then provide or offer the feedback. Managing some risks. You can point out what could go wrong and opening doors. Mentees will learn a lot too, because all of the mentees are about to be the next generation of DTMs. So they're going to learn quickly. They're going to have a chance to follow through and managing the relationship. For both of you come together is that middle section, listening actively, building trust, encouraging, and identifying goals. So this is the nest of skills and experience. You ready to move on to step 4? Okay. Benefits for the club members and for you. The best mentoring advice I have ever found: don't expect or promise miracles. The goal is not perfection, but improvement. You don't get to the last stage without going through all of the intermittent steps. I spent some time working in a hierarchical organization called the United States Army, and I was a private E1 in an infantry company. And before I could do anything, I had to learn things worked, who operated, and I had to listen to people who are called drill sergeants. I don't know if there are any drill sergeants in this meeting. Maybe there are, but they were hard to negotiate with. They produced improvement, but it required living on the edge, getting up unbelievably early and staying up incredibly late, and doing a lot of push-ups and running and so on. The goal here is not perfection, because the clubs are not our trainees. They're not our recruits. They're our colleagues. They're our friends, and we want to just bring them to a level that is a little better than where they were and open their eyes to that. What's going to happen is mentoring will help produce greater competence. As meetings become better organized and more regular, agendas become more thoughtful, as clubs start doing things like, oh, let's do our agenda for the next 3 months and set it up so there's a clear sense of where they're going, then confidence goes up. And as that goes on, the meetings go better. When the meetings go better, more people want to come, better interpersonal relations grow, a larger professional, and finally, an understanding of the club career path. What is it like for a club to go from weak to strong? And what does that do for the members? I don't want to spend too much time on this, but maybe I'll start on the left and Dan will start on the right. So what are the things that you don't want to do? Don't cancel. If you made an appointment, be there. Come late. Don't come late. Don't leave early. Oh, I've got another meeting. I'm double tasking. That says a lot. You're there and looking at your phone. That says a lot. Dan?
I say no explanation is necessary. It basically comes down to a lot of times we make excuses, we make assumptions. Everybody knows this, has these resources. Why do they need me? Surely people can learn by osmosis. And those things can be easy to fall into. I know Stephanie and April know that I don't like to call people. I think we should all be adults and know that we have to pay our dues in October. But those are still things that are good reminders. So today I made some phone calls, and it sounds like at least some people in R are doing pretty good. Never just assume. When you assume, you tend to fail. So try to follow through on things, make sure that you're informed and you inform others and you share freely.
Absolutely, thank you. Try and lose the me in mentor. The worst thing you can do is say, I know what works. That may be true, but that's not going to convince people. The secret is to build a crew and a company of companions and move ahead together.
And for the so I told your manager portion, it kind of goes back to a coach taking over. And don't just boldly go until you know that that's someplace you need to go. Make sure you talk to others before you share things, that you know where you are and what you're doing.
One of the things I've done in my years as a consultant is I never did work on an airplane. And I would spend typically 50 or 60 nights a year in hotels and all that flying to keep up with that. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to open my laptop and get some stuff done on those flights. And the advice that I got from my company was, it doesn't work that way. Somebody can read your screen. Somebody can look at your notes. This stuff is confidential. It's important to people's careers, success, their bottom line. So when we come into a club, what we see and hear is between you and the club, and it doesn't need to be shared with anybody else. Just learn to be just as discreet as you can be. One of the things to do is to hit everybody with negativity. I watched somebody do their first evaluation. Well, when you approached the front of the room, you did this, and then you said that, and then you said, it was like, yeah, you. And it just won't work. Dan, take us out.
I say goals. We don't need no stinking goals. Sometimes I like that idea. Other times, it's good to have some goals. Good to have some integrity and commitment. and realize that sometimes other people's satisfaction is something that you have a bearing on and some influence on.
What we're doing is we're building communities. They're living communities, and we're going to give them enough strength and cultivation that they can grow and continue growing on their own. Finally, strategies that really work. This is a little bit abstract, but I'll walk you through it. Patterns have huge powers. If I'm going to take a sip of coffee or anything, your mind already knows what's going on as I lift my cup, and you can visualize what's going on. If I were to take a lemon and begin to peel it and smell it, some of you would find that your salivary glands would begin to respond. What happens is there are certain patterns, and if we model those patterns, they can be very helpful. When we do that, we become very effective individually and as coaches. Next, essential transferable skills, the ETS. Who's ever been to a totally disorganized Toastmasters meeting? A lot of hands, right? Mine is up. When you learn to run a meeting and starts on time, sticks to the agenda and is positive and gets all the way through, people come out of the meeting without knowing what was going on, but because it was well organized, those essentially transferable skills are owned by the people in the club. But they're also good in families. They're also good in other associations. They're good in religious groupings. They're good in workplace settings. So one of the things that adds value to Toastmasters is that essential transferable skill, the ETS level. This little piece is from my time in the Caribbean, where there were amazing fish and tropical reefs and coral. One of the things is that there is no such thing as a fish. There's no such thing as a coral. Rather, there's a community, and they all come together. So you have to be able to shift back and forth to which part will affect the whole, and what changes to the whole will affect the part. And how can you create that so the whole structure grows at once? Those of you who are gardeners, or those of you who have pets or animals, those of you who build anything, understand that maybe intuitively, but it's pretty important to just be able to go back and forth. And then finally, this little weaving here is what I call the value-added perspective. When we put all of the different threads together, we create something that is stronger than any individual thread. So we're not looking for stars, we're looking for something that will carry us forward like a magic carpet that will fly us into the future. So you want to keep a gentle future orientation going on. One of the questions that I often keep on reserve is, oh, okay, what's our next action? That's very nice, and it doesn't threaten anybody. And it lets the group decide what their next action is. Okay, now to summarize, what are the best practices? Now again, Dan and I will work through. Dan, why don't you go first on the left?
Okay, but I just read the right.
I can change.
Nope, I'm good. The fine art of effective listening, which really is a skill that Toastmasters can teach us and is a benefit no matter what aspect of life you're involved in. I mean, 2 ears, 1 mouth, patience. Problems can be more complex than you think. Be a sounding board, acknowledge frequently, just be a good set of ears and a fair listening post.
Thanks, Dan. So you're saying to listen and to use what comes in before you send something out, which is my rephrase of what he just said. Objective support, timely constructive feedback as a disinterested third party. Don't be on the side of taking sides. If the club wants to become a specialty club that's going to do stand-up comedy, and you go, I hate stand-up, that's not your call. It's the club's call, and your job is to simply facilitate how they're going to get to their goals. And their goals are not my goals or your goals, but do encourage them to step out and take some risks and to do that.
And so advise and catalyze. Does one size always fit? Make sure you weigh those options. You have an idea of what's going on, recognize the environment or the situation you're in. And something that I've always found frustrated as a mentee is when that mentor helps you solve those problems by making you solve those problems. But be a part of that as the mentor. But it's good to see that growth and let us as mentees experience and solve problems on our own, and then have a place to discuss those various actions and learn, and hopefully we all grow together.
There's so many differences going on. In the Caribbean, my Kupakois club had so many different faiths involved. So you had people who were Rasta, people who were Christian, people who were Muslim, people who were atheist, and people who didn't know or didn't care. But they always started with a prayer. And that prayer took a lot of different forms. And then it was followed up with a joke. So you'd have a moment of religiosity of some kind, or sharing some good news or good thoughts. And then the next person would stand up and tell a joke. Now, in the Caribbean, jokes that are okay in public groups are much more risque than you might find in most places in the United States. So it was amazing. So the first couple of times I heard that, I went, whoa, how can you say that in a public group, particularly a mixed group? But are there going to be different ways for different groups? Sure. So share yourself, meet in person wherever possible, have an open door so people can be in touch with you. Dan and I have got our emails out here. We're going to be present on the Facebook page to communicate and respond to any questions that you have. So let me send it back to Dan.
Flexibility. Look at that bottom line. Life happens. Have we not globally, collectively experienced life happening for the past several months? It's hard to know what's going to happen. Every situation is different. Just because we think this is the way it should be done doesn't mean that that's the best way for those people we're helping to do it. We just be flexible and have an open mind.
And then finally, to make that connection between goals for the mentee and goals for the club, or in a corporate environment, the company's goals, and then connect the mentee with our networks, engage in the mentee's network, share and find connections. I think I just got a friendship connection request from Stephanie, and I'm probably going to say yes to that. So, and that's good. Share your passion. Have a passion for sharing. Find that enthusiasm and bring that in. Now, a way to do this, make it work, is to learn from the pros. I brought this up because this is not a Toastmasters meeting. So if you're doing all of your coaching during the meeting, you don't want to be giving a 4 to 6 minute speech. You want to meet with the leaders in a time when you can strategize and focus and learn what's on their mind. Put your goals up and talk about them and communicate the impact of project add-ons. And then as you come through, you're going to create a risk response team. Who are the leaders that are going to help work together? And what are they going to do? Manage new agreements. I often have somebody come up with a checklist and say, are we all on board? Who's not? Let's talk about that, and to bring that in. So the whole process of mentoring might look like something like this. Collectively find a community vision, then find the recruiting strategy, who's going to do what when. For most clubs that are down to a low number of members, that's going to be bringing people in. What are all the steps that are involved, and are people ready to do that? I was with a club yesterday at their meeting, and they're very fond of each other. And somebody said, well, I've been the gatekeeper of this club. He named a certain position for the last 20-something years. And I thought, whoa, because you were in that position for 20 years, is it possible how many, maybe 20 other people did not have that chance or that experience? So what can we do to enhance the guest experience? And then out of that, the club will be transformed. So to put it simply and succinctly, inch by inch, life's a cinch. Yard by yard, it's too darn hard. This has been Peter Pizor along with Dan Arbuckle. We're working together. We thank you for being willing to be mentors. Be in touch with us and be safe and be well.